There was once a young girl named Mary Culhane, and she lived with her family down the hill a ways away from the graveyard. Now one day, her father was coming home from town, and he stopped in the graveyard to rest for a while and watch the sunset. And when he got up to walk on, he left his walking stick laying atop the grave. He didn't remember it until supper. Well, Mary jumped up and said, "I'll get it," because she knew that was her father's favorite walking stick. And before her parents could say a word, Mary was out the door and down the road into the dark, dark night. She made her way to the graveyard, and she found the grave that her father had been sitting on. And there, leaning against a stone, was his shillelagh. Well, she bent down to pick it up, and up out of the grave came a bony, white hand that grabbed hold of the hem of her dress. Mary shook, and Mary trembled, but a power had come over her, and she could not move. Another hand came out of the grave and grabbed her dress higher up, and something very, very old and dead climbed hand over hand slowly up her dress until it set on her shoulder. It spoke, "Walk." And Mary Culhane, against her will, walked, overcome with the power of this thing. Now the thing on her shoulder was light, but it was heavy with the weight of evil. And the dead weight of it hung heavy on her back. Mary walked until she could not, but bony hands closed around her neck, and the thing said, "Walk on, Mary Culhane, for I'm hungry. I haven't eaten for many a year." And Mary walked. They came to the village where the houses sat side by side, and the thing pointed to the first house and said, "Turn in here." "No, turn back. I smell holy water in there." They came to the next house, and it pointed, "Turn in here." No, turn back. There's holy water in there too." But as they came to the third house, it sniffed. "Turn in here, Mary, for there is no holy water in this house." And in they went. The family, neighbors that Mary knew well, were all asleep in their beds. And the thing said, "Get a bowl and a knife." And she did, as he bade. Upstairs. And up she went, with the thing a-riding on her shoulders. And there lay the three sons of the family, fast asleep in their beds. And the thing said, "Cut their fingers, Mary, and fill the bowl with their blood." You trembling hand and a tear in her eye, Mary cut their fingers. She held out the bowl, and with the first drop of their blood, the boys stopped breathing. When the second drop hit the bowl, they turned white. And when that bowl was full of their blood, they were as white and cold as that thing. And then Mary went back down to the kitchen with that bowl of blood, and the thing said, "Make me oatmeal." And Mary used the blood. She made the oatmeal and used the blood. "Set 2 bowls and 2 spoons on the dining table, Mary." And she did as she was bade. The thing crawled off her shoulder and sat at the table and said, "Sit, Mary, and eat." It picked up its bowl of bloody oatmeal and began slobbering and gobbling with relish, and Mary took the kerchief off her head and tied it round her neck like a scarf. And as the thing was licking the bloody bowl, she took the spoon, held it to her mouth, and pretended to swallow, but dropped it down her kerchief. And when that thing had licked all the bloody gruel, it said, "Are you done eating, Mary?" "I am," she said. "Well, then take me back where you found me. I'll just clean up first." And she took the bowls and the spoons and went back to the kitchen. And then she took off her kerchief, carefully folded it over that oatmeal, and hid it back in a cupboard. And back she went to the dining room. And that thing climbed back up and perched on her shoulder, and that spell came over Mary again. And she did as he said. They walked down the path towards the graveyard, the thing, dead weight, heavy on her, and Mary walked slow as she could. She asked, "Is there no cure for those boys?" "Not now, Mary. We ate it all." "What, if one bite of that food had been placed in their mouth, they would have risen up alive again." Mary walked on. They were coming closer to the graveyard, and the thing pointed to a pile of stones and said, "Do you see those stones, Mary? Well, there's a pile of gold under there, but shh, only the dead know about it." On they went into the graveyard, and just as the sun was getting ready to rise, the thing climbed down off Mary and into his grave. Mary felt that spell fading away, but the thing said, "Come down, Mary Culhane, come down," and it reached out those dead, bony fingers and clutched her living flesh and pulled her closer and closer to the edge. But just then, the sun rose over the hill and struck that thing, and its hands fell away. Back it fell into the grave by itself, and Mary, teetering on the edge, stepped back and shook herself. And then she picked up her father's walking stick and she headed for home. Now she stopped at the third house and she went in, and there was the family crying and wailing for their dead sons. And Mary went to the father and said, "You know, there's a fever that's been going around, and maybe the boys just were overcome by the fever." "Mary, don't be joking. I know dead when I see dead." But still and all, Mary went to the kitchen and she got a bowl of water. And then from the cupboard she got her bloody kerchief. And it looked as though she was going to go upstairs and mop the boys' fevered brows. Well, up she went. But she fed those boys that oatmeal. With the first spoonful, color came back to them. With the second, they began to stir a little bit. With the third, they were breathing and deep asleep. And then they stirred, they stretched, they yawned, and each one of them said, "What a nightmare I just had." Now Mary Culhane, she lived a long and comfortable life. She came into some wealth along the way. No one was sure quite how or where, but Mary was able to buy the land near the graveyard. But as long as Mary lived, no matter who died, she never attended their burial. In fact, Mary Culhane never stepped foot in that graveyard again.